From middle school through graduate school, being tested on what we read basically is school. We read a book, we take a test, we read a book, we take a test, and then you just repeat that until you graduate, right? So that's why knowing how to take a test on a book is super necessary. You might not like it, you might think it's boring, but the facts are taking tests on books is a thing, and you have to know how to do the thing. This video is full of strategies for preparing for and taking tests on novels, which are both fiction and nonfiction. The strategies are applicable to all grade levels, and even for professionals who are taking professional development courses, who are reading books and having to take tests on them. If you fit either of those categories, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo from SchoolHabits.com. I'm a private executive function coach who teaches students and professionals strategies to learn and work better. Please consider liking and subscribing. That makes a world of difference. And for more tips and tricks for productivity and learning and organization and all that type of stuff, you can find me over on Instagram. Okay, let's get started. So I have organized this video and these strategies into what we should do before we read the book, while we read the book, and after we read the book that we're going to be taking a test on. So let's start with what we should do before we read a book that we know we're going to have to take a test on, because believe it or not, there's a few things, and they are simple, that we can do before we read that will help us not have to study as much for the test after we read. So for example, if I gave you a new fruit to try that you have never tasted before, okay, and you've never even heard of it before, and I ask you to describe the flavor to me, you would have no other way to describe that flavor of the new fruit other than by connecting it to what you already know. So you might say something like, oh, it's citrusy like an orange, or it's sweet like a strawberry, or it's crunchy like an apple. It would be impossible for you to describe that fruit without connecting it to what you already know. And learning new information for school or professional development or whatever it is that you're learning is the exact same thing. And that is really important cognitive science for you to know as we go into these strategies. And that is why it's really important that before you read, to spend about 15 to 20 minutes doing a little research about the book that you're going to be reading. So who is the author and what's the time period he or she lived in? Was that author controversial for any reason? What is happening in real life at the time of the setting of the story or when the book was written? What are the themes of the book? What is the setting of the story? How did people respond to the publication of the book? Was it controversial? Was it really welcomed by society? Did it change society's thinking in any way? Now, the more we know about a book before we read it, of course, without like spoiling the story, right? So be careful how far you read. The more the book will make sense to us. And ultimately, the less we'll have to study it. And where do you find this information, you might ask? Google it. Now, moving on to strategies that we use while we are reading the story. The best way to study for a test on a book is to prepare for the test while you are reading. So I have 5 strategies right now for what to do during your reading process that will not only help you better understand what you're reading, but it will also help you create awesome study materials for after you are done reading and it's time to actually study for your test. So strategy number 1, keep a running character list. When you start a book, keep a bookmark or sticky note, or if you own the book and you don't mind writing in the front of it, keep a running list of all the key characters from the moment you meet them. Now, sometimes when we're reading a book, we meet a character and we don't know if it's a key character yet and they like die off 2 pages later. Whatever, it's not the end of the world if you put like a minor character on your character list, okay? But generally you can have a sense of who's going to be a primary character. As you learn important information about these characters, just add them like little bullet points under each character's name on your character list. This strategy can help us keep characters straight in our mind for like the first quarter of a book, because sometimes there are so many characters and we can't keep them straight. Or if the book is set in a country in a language that isn't native to us, and the characters might have names that are unfamiliar to us and are therefore, because they're unfamiliar, they're harder to remember. So that is the benefit of keeping a running character list. Strategy number 2, write chapter summaries after you read each chapter. And that's really important that after you read each chapter, you pause and you go back to the first page of the chapter and you write a couple bullet points, not complete sentences, okay? The whole point of this is brief. We don't want to make any of these strategies double your reading time. Few bullet points with plot points. If there was a major turning event in that chapter, if a character died off in the chapter, if you met an important character in the chapter, I'm talking like 2 to 5 bullet points for your chapter summaries. You can do these on sticky notes if you don't own the book. You can do them, write them right in the book if you want to write in the book. So many different ways to do it. Strategy number 3, complete all your reading comprehension questions provided by your teacher. Now that strategy might seem really obvious, but some teachers provide guiding questions to help us as we read. Sometimes these things are optional. Optional in many, many cases means do it. Right? They're there for a reason. Now, if your teacher doesn't provide any reading comprehension questions, oh my gosh, Google it. Like, the internet is full of resources that teachers use to give to students. There are reading comprehension questions for every typically assigned book from elementary school through college available online. You might think this strategy is crazy. Like, why would I go and seek out extra work for myself? You know what? Why are you watching this video? Right? It's because you care and you're clearly looking for a better way to get a better test grade on the books you're reading, and this one works. I promise. And also, you might think people don't do this. Let me tell you a secret. They do. People do this. They just don't talk about it. Like, so many of the things I talk about on my blog, on my videos, are things that you might be thinking, no one does that. Oh my God, yes they do. Yes they do, but they're just not advertising it, okay? I promise you, that is a secret of the pros. Strategy number 4, annotate as you read. You know this, you're probably rolling your eyes at the word annotation like, oh my gosh, how many times does my teacher have to say annotate? But hear me out. I think you should annotate according to your own strategy. Some teachers assign a particular way to annotate. My most popular video on YouTube, I think it's 500,000 views right now. That's kind of cool considering I'm just like me. All right, but it's all about annotation, so I will leave that in the description box. And I also have another video called Highlight and Rewrite. It's an annotation strategy that I teach my students here. This is actually my office where I work with my one-on-ones or my Zoom students. And it's a very simple annotation strategy that you highlight the important information in the book, but then you do have a brief note to yourself about why you highlighted. Every highlight should be paired with a brief note. Number 5, create a timeline of events. Now, if you're reading nonfiction or your novel has a lot of plot points, keep a running timeline on the inside cover of your book. You could also do it on a separate piece of paper and just keep it tucked into the inside cover. Sometimes timelines don't necessarily have dates. If you're reading historical fiction, there'll often be dates, but even if it's a work of fiction, sometimes this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Even if it's a book like Catcher in the Rye, where Holden, first he goes here, and then he goes here, and then he leaves his school and he's on the train, and then he goes from here to New York City and here to New York City. If you haven't read Catcher in the Rye, you won't know what I'm talking about. But there's really no dates. It's over the course of 24 hours, 48, 24. Oops, whatever. But those types of sequence of events is really helpful for us understanding the book. All right, moving on to what we can do after we read the book in preparation for the test. And I have 10 strategies for this section. Now remember, everything I say in this video is available as a blog post on SchoolHabits.com. So if you're watching this video and you're like, there is just too much and I can't remember this, the link to the blog post that goes with this video is in the description box, and then I want you to head there after you watch the video. So in order to study for the test, an awesome strategy is to start by consolidating all of your chapter summaries that you wrote. You can either rewrite them, you can transition them together so that they flow, or you can literally just stack them back to back. That together will create a giant comprehensive summary of the book. Number 2, review your character list and add information about each character if you've learned more by the time that you got to the end of the book. Number 3, flip through the book and read the annotations that you left for yourself in the margins. And do something with that information. So I need to pause here to say that reading and rereading is not studying. Straight up, I could end the video there. Reading and rereading is not studying. Reading is reading. Rereading is rereading. Neither of those two things is studying. So if you think you're just gonna like read through your notes as a way to study, like flat no, just no, all right? So what you do is you go through your annotations and you do something with that information. For example, if one of your notes was information about a character, add that to your character list. If you annotated about a plot point, but it wasn't on your timeline, add it to your timeline. If you find that you have many annotations on a singular theme, then consolidate those together and you'll have like a whole chunk of information that's connected to one of the themes of the story. And hint, hint, we know that like all teachers ask about primary themes of the story, right? And evidence of that theme. Number 4, read through your reading comprehension questions, covering the answers, and see if you can answer them without looking at the answers. Because again, reading the questions and the answers being like, oh yeah, I knew that, isn't studying, because did you really know that? Did you? Or did you have to look at the answer, right? We cannot fool ourselves. Cover the answer, read the question, and see if you can verbalize the answer. No peeking. Number 6, Google information about the book. At this point, you've read it. You don't need to worry about any spoiler alerts. I have nothing against SparkNotes and LitCharts and all those websites that have like basic, I will call it basic, let's be real, analysis. But if there's any gaps in your understanding of the book, like you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was the uncle, or I didn't realize they lost that battle, or whatever the story is, things like SparkNotes and LitCharts can fill in those gaps. They can let you know about themes in the story that maybe you forgot about. I'm always a huge proponent of reading first and then SparkNoting afterwards. Number 7, review your class notes, teacher slides, and your handouts. Quiz yourself on this material using active recall. If you don't know what active recall is, you need to start there. Like, it is the hands down #1 study strategy I could ever teach. If I only ever had one thing to say to my students, it would be like, hi, I'm Katie, active recall. Like, that would be it. That's what you would pay me for. I don't have a video on that yet. Now I'm taking a mental note. I cannot even believe that. I mention it all the time in my videos, but I don't think I have a specific video on it. That's bananas. That's bananas. But I do have a whole blog post on it, of course, and I will leave that in the description box below. Number 8, attempt to summarize the book to someone else. If you can't explain something clearly to someone else using simple language, then you don't understand it yourself. And ideally here, you try to find somebody who is unfamiliar with the story. Number 9, review important quotes that you guys discussed as a class. Teachers love taking important quotes from the story and having class discussions. Hopefully you took notes on those class discussions and about what those quotes meant. Review those. Number 10, see if you can recreate your timeline that you were ideally creating for yourself while you are reading. If you did not create a timeline while you were reading, see if you can do so now. Listen, as I said, taking tests on books is a thing. It's a school thing, no matter your grade, no matter where you go to school. It doesn't make sense to fight this one. Like, again, you might not like it and you might think it's super boring and you might be like, it's so dumb, I just want to read the book and like not have a test on it. I know, I hear you and I feel you and I think the same thing. However, the facts are that you're going to have to take a test on the books. So don't fight it. Tough love, man. So that's actually the whole point of this video, is right to like make you hate this whole thing less, to give you strategies for what to do before, during, and after you read the book so that the test doesn't take you out at the knees. Okay, I hope this helps. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I never thought I'd be one of those people who's like, hit subscribe, click subscribe. I'm not that cool to say hit subscribe. And of course, if you have any questions, leave those in the comments below. I love comments, I love questions. I will get to them, I promise. It's just me, and I will answer them for you. And of course, thank you so much for watching.